Hey Jeff, how you doing? Hope you're well. Yeah, it's I've had a lot of interest on it already. Had emails the second I posted pictures of it. I've just uploaded it on the website, so we'll see. Hopefully it'll sell. Family could be better. My parents, as you know, they're pretty frail, but a couple of my kids are unwell at the moment. We had a bit of a scary moment with my son, with Rafi. We thought he may have had appendicitis. We're still keeping an eye on him. He has excruciating pain in his abdomen. Went away after a bit and then came back a few hours later. So anyway, we had a medical guy check it. Well, we'll see. Hey Sharon. Thank you. Thank you, both of you. Actually, Jeff, there is a package winding its way over to you at the moment. You should get it any day now. I sent it maybe a week or 10 days ago. I was hoping it would get to you in time for Christmas, but maybe in time for the new year. We'll see. Actually, I'm just going to have a quick look and see if there's any info on the mail. The mail has been a little bit haphazard, so with strikes and whatnot. Okay, so it's been received at Langley. Being prepared for dispatch overseas. Oh. Well, it looks like it's in the international centre, so hopefully it'll be crossing over in the next few days. I thought it would have already left the country, but it hasn't, it looks like. Although it may have, you can't rely on the... You can't rely on the tracking information at the moment because it's not updated in real time because of the strikes and stuff. So, but it looks like it might be into the new year before you get it. But whenever it arrives. Hopefully, it'll get you in good shape. So the pipe you're talking about is this one, which I just finished earlier this evening. It's a really nice, hey Beowulf and Kathy, a very nice sort of Danish style apple. But I've put it on almost as a second. So I basically do a 1-star. So I've kind of stopped doing seconds, and anything which is rated 1-star has got a couple of minor issues on it. And if you watch the video, you'll see what the issues were. But it's a lovely pipe, lightweight, small, could be a pocket pipe. A very Danish kind of looking pipe, but superb grain on it, just amazing grain on it. Really, really nice pipe. And so I've listed it cheaper as well. But there are a few pipes available on the website if anybody's interested. I know it's a time of year when people are kind of spent out already, but you know, when they sell, they sell. And tonight I'm working on this Rhodesian, quite a chunky rhodesian. It should have some nice cross grain on this one too. The nice shaped hand cut stem. It's a brindled ebonite stem, but it still needs lots of definition and that kind of thing. It's just really just the beginnings of the shaping, but it does have potentially very nice grain. So you can see the cross grain there, and perhaps you can see on the side there that grain, really nice. Don't know how well it's focusing, but there is some nice grain on that. So hopefully that pipe will work out. Believe it or not, I have not yet smoked today. I haven't smoked anything, neither pipe nor cigar. I was actually going to smoke this Partagas P2, which is Series Sevilla, which was this was sold in china jars or porcelain jars. I'm not sure how many were in a jar when they sold it. Maybe it was 12 or 18 or 20, I'm not sure. And somebody kindly sent me 2 of these a long time ago, probably a year or 2 now. So I took one of them out and I was going to do a video on it, and I got busy with my kids earlier on, and then busy with starting this pipe, so I didn't get to smoke it. And I could smoke it now during the live, but as I said, I wanted to do a video whilst smoking that one. So instead I brought up another pipe. I might smoke a pipe, but I brought up one of these D6s, which are one of my favourite cigars these days. I also am debating whether to break in the new Savinelli. In case you haven't seen the video, this is a 614, I think the shape is. Yeah, 614, otherwise known as the saxophone. Mustard coloured stem with a nice sort of swirly, sort of like a marble effect band in there, and it's got this sort of carving which is similar a little bit to the razor carving that I used to do. Haven't done it in a while, but by looking at it, it really looks like it's been done by hand, because the shapes are pretty random, which is pretty cool for a factory pipe to be pretty much finished by hand. So I mean, I haven't really been buying pipes for quite some time now. I tend to smoke my own, but this one, it was on a special offer on GQ Tobaccos, and it just caught my eye. I like the look of it, I like the colour combination, I like the natural, I like the band. I might still thin that down a little bit. It does feel a little bit on the thick side, but that's me being a pipe maker. It's about 0.5 millimeter wider than I would like, or maybe 3/4 millimeter. Hi Jeremy. So I was debating whether to break this one in tonight, but breaking in a pipe for me is a chore. It's not something I enjoy doing, and because I haven't had a smoke, and really whatever I do smoke I want to enjoy. So I'm not sure that I want to do that tonight. And I've also mentioned that I want to do a giveaway. I haven't done a giveaway in a long time, So I want to do a giveaway. I mentioned it in one of my morning drives, and it's going to be related to how technology affects your life. So if you want to, if you think you're going to want to enter, then that's really the theme. What kind of triggered that? Hey Oscar, how you doing? What triggered that for me was during COVID, the use of Zoom and modern technology for people to keep together, to keep in touch. I think that's been a feature in our lives now for the past 3 years, and it's a feature which has really kept people sane. Things like this, live videos, they kind of really exploded. The popularity of them exploded in COVID-19, when COVID during the lockdowns. Although we had them before, but I think that their popularity and the amount that people relied on them really came to the fore during COVID-19. I don't know if you guys have it in the States, but we have something at the moment here called Strep A, which is a streptococcus, which in normal circumstances is not too threatening. People get ill and they get over it within a few days, but there's been a few cases here of kids getting it and dying. I think there's been something like 9 or 10 or maybe more now who sadly have died as a result of it, and they're calling it invasive strep A, something like that. So it's worrying. So the thing with my kids today, I was a little bit nervous about it, but hopefully by tomorrow they'll be feeling a bit better. I think I'm going to go with Cigar. This is a D6, so it's a little 3.5 inch cigar by a 50 ring gauge, I think it is. I'm just going to put the extractor on. It is possible that one of my kids might knock on the door if they're not feeling well, in which case I'll have to go and see to them, and if it'll be for any extended time, I'll just have to cut short, but hopefully they'll be alright. This is a paleo cigar cutter. Don't know if you're familiar with it, but it's one of those which I think a little bit under the radar for a lot of people, but I think it's one of the best cutters out there. They're not cheap. A good draw for a change. No, that's not a bad idea actually, Jeremy. I'm not sure how to do that. Oh, you got 2 of them, cool. That is actually a really neat idea. I do see people doing these Zoom sort of sessions live with 2 people or 3 people. That's an excellent idea to do something with Izzy. I don't know if he'll be up for it. I mean, he's a busy guy, but it's a great idea. Hey Todd, Chip. I love that idea. I mean, I have seen people doing it. I should really do it a little bit more. Hey Aran, Merry Christmas to you too. Merry Christmas to everybody. It's gone midnight, so it is Christmas now. Here in the UK anyway. Baby happy with the chocolate milk, yeah. Not such a baby anymore. She must be, I don't know, she must be 3 or 4 years old now. Because I think she was born before COVID. She was born 1 or 2 years BC, before COVID. Thank you. Happy Hanukkah to you too, Todd. My cigars at the moment are in a humidor, and they're in my conservatory kind of thing, so it's really cold in there at the moment, and I think it's affecting the cigars. I'm going to have to take them out of there because I have no room in here for them. I've only got a small a thing like that. Hey Daniel, Merry Christmas to you too. But I think I'm going to have to find some way of storing the cigars indoors. It's just really cramped in here. I mean, it's amazing that I've managed to fit the workshop in here, but it is very cramped. It's my workshop, it's my office as well, so it's really doubling up, and it was crammed before I put the workshop in, so you can imagine it's doubly crammed now with the workshop. No, I didn't order from Absolute Cigars. I have been looking at the website, and there's one particular cigar which I've been looking for such a long time. It's a cheap cigar, but I think they're a nice cigar. When I was first sort of getting to know newer Cigar, I tried those, and I had a few of them. I think I had a 5-pack possibly, and I never reordered them. Hi Jason. At the moment I'm in the market for cheap cigars, but cheap but flavorful cigars. I can't afford Cuban cigars. I was watching Kirby Allison this evening. He was doing a video with the Sahakians about the state of Cuban cigars and so on, looking at some old vintage cigars. It's always enjoyable to watch them, but they gave a bit of a rundown on the state of Cuban cigars and why they're more expensive now, and that kind of thing. And there's a shortage as well. So when I went on to Absolute Cigars, it's the only place I really saw these cigars, and that's Perdomo Fresco, and they're really cheap. I think they're a pack of 20 for about $75, something like that. So I really would like to get a pack of those, but I haven't yet had an opportunity to do that, and I'm a bit worried about the shipping. So I don't know, maybe I'll get them shipped to somebody in the UK, in the US, and get them to ship it over to me. But if they still taste as good as I remember, then it's a great price. It's a great buy for this day and age to keep me in cigars, but without breaking the bank. The hand is really good, actually. It's pretty much completely healed. You can see the scar over there, that pink area in the middle. That was a hole beforehand. That was a deep gash before, but it healed really well. Thank you for asking. If it wasn't such a hassle to order from the States, I'd get, I'd order them every so often, and you don't see them on every American website. That's the thing. There's plenty of Perdomo sellers in America, but not all of them have the Fresco cigar, and it's only on. It was a big eureka moment when I saw them on Absolute Cigars, and I've got Daniel to thank for that, because I couldn't find them, and I hope it's not going to be an anticlimax, because it's a long time since I smoked them. It was probably like 4 or 5 years ago. So we'll see. Hopefully I'll get them at some point. Well, I can't use a laptop for the work that I do. It has to be a screen which I can calibrate for the photography work. The laptop is just too unpredictable, because every time you open it, it's going to be at a slightly different angle, that kind of thing, and they're not the same quality screens, and need a reasonably big screen as well. So although it's a nice idea, I appreciate the suggestion, it's not a practical solution, to be honest. Hey Murray, appreciate all the comments that you've made on several of my videos. I try to respond, but I don't get to every message, but I appreciate it very much. Thank you. What made me take out the pipe? Well, I have mentioned it many times. I had fond memories of pipe smoking. I had several teachers who smoked pipes when I was a kid, and in those days, teachers smoked in the classroom. It was the norm. It wasn't frowned upon even. And good for you, Jason. I hope that goes well. And the aromas were always fantastic, even though I do remember clearly that one of my teachers smoked Clan, and Clan's got a really bad rap here in the UK. The old timers still smoke it, and there must be a market for it because it's still out there in the shops. It's like an over-the-counter. But I do remember this guy used to smoke Clan because I recognised retrospectively the tartan on the pouch, and I specifically remember him having a tartan pouch in the packet, not a tobacco pouch, but the ones that you buy in the shop, not a one that you keep for permanently. This was a purchased 50-gram pouch of tobacco. If it's your first ever cigar, it'll be, something new for you, whichever cigar you smoke, really. What was I saying? Yeah, so I always had good memories of pipe smoking, but how it started was on Sunday afternoons, we'd go out with the family, and one of the places we'd go to is Covent Gardens, and in Covent Gardens there's a little kiosk called Cigars and Snuff. And they have cigars, obviously, snuff, and also a selection of pipes. Not a huge selection, but a selection. And whenever we'd go to Covent Gardens, I'd have my nose against the window, just looking at all of the pipes and just really just liking the look of them. And there was also, hi Igor, a long time no see, I hope you're well. And I remember also when I was in college, there was a guy who I was in the same dorm with, and he was a little bit eccentric, still is. And one day he'd been going to one of the second-hand shops, what do you call them in America, thrift stores. Anyway, one day he came back with a pipe, and that was just interesting. Just a memory of my youth. Anyway, one day I went into the shop, Cigar and Snuff. I picked up a pipe and I bought a pouch of tobacco, and it started then. I mean, I had a terrible time with that first pouch, and the minute I bought it, I went off into Covent Gardens, loaded the pipe, obviously crammed it full with tobacco, couldn't draw on it, it was too tight, burnt myself to hell. But I didn't give up at that first hurdle, which I think a lot of people probably do. But I went on YouTube, discovered various videos on how to smoke a pipe. I don't remember which was the first video that I learned from, but I know that I got hook, line and sinker on Jason Dagner's channel. This is way before he started making pipes. I mean, he was working in a factory at the time, and just watching him and his dad, I just used to enjoy watching them. Sent them a package or two over the time, but yeah, that's where I kind of got hooked, and I really got hooked. The whole concept of the YTPC was such a new experience for me, and it was just, I have mentioned this many times, but for me it was like almost a completely new microcosm, and a whole new world which was separated away from reality. And anytime you want to just get away from things, get away from the humdrum life, the day-to-day life, the workaday life, the pressures of life, you just sort of immerse yourself in YTPC or in pipe smoking videos, and you're in another world. And then is obviously the exchanging tobaccos and stuff like that, which as long as you go into it with the right attitude, it's an amazing thing. and I was hooked, really hooked. And after a few years, I started just, for the heck of it. I bought a couple of hobby blocks, and kind of it all went from there to making pipes. And I'm now nearly 700 pipes in. You did 12 volts in your first pipe before you realised there's a filter inside. You're talking about a carbon filter or a metal tube? Which kind of filter are you talking about? Or a stinger? 687. 687, Jeremy. It had definitely 3-star potential. The grain is fantastic, and had everything else worked out, it could have possibly been a 4-star, but certainly a 3-star without a doubt. But a couple of minor issues, which again, I don't think they affect the smoke in any way, shape or form, but I just feel that I have to be completely open and transparent about it, and somebody will get a good LCS pipe for less. This pipe would have gone on for about £220 if it wouldn't have had the issues, and I've put it up for 150, I think, or 155. It's a really, really nice pipe. One of the issues is that I wanted to do a spigot style pipe, a horn spigot. So usually it's silver, but this time I did horn on the shank and horn on the stem. And the horn on the stem is a little bit more translucent. It's a little bit thinner, and it's a little bit more translucent than I would like, so you can kind of see the stem through it. That was one of the issues. And the second issue is that the drill, I mean, you can hardly even see it, but it's a fraction, a hair's breadth off to the left. It's just, it would bug me, so, because I'm just like that. I just felt that I had to be honest about it. You can't even see it, when you look at it. It's not something that you can readily see. You'd only find it because I'm telling you about it. But you can see that there is a little bit wider than that there, if you see the lip. And for me, that's a reason to not make it a 3-star. So as I said, the drill is very slightly off to one side. But it's a gorgeous pipe, and I'll have no problems at all keeping this pipe if it doesn't sell. It's lightweight, it's a beautiful looking pipe. At some point in the future, I suppose I could make another stem for it, but it'll have the same problem unless I sort of sand it down more on one side and don't make a... But because of the drill generally, I just decided not to spend the time on making another stem and just sell it cheaper. So that's what I'm doing. As I say, if it doesn't sell, I'll keep it. It's a beautiful looking pipe, great proportions, very lightweight. It's 37 grams, I think. So it's been an interesting year, I guess. This time of year, people start to sort of look back at how the year's been. Perhaps I'll do a video on that when I announce my giveaway. But it's certainly been interesting. Can you fix the draft hole if it's slightly off center? Well, you can reshape the outside of the shank, but this was shaped on the lathe. I could do it by hand, I just don't want to. It would be a shame to do that. I mean, you could, if you were really into woodwork, you could make a dowel. It's just not worth the effort to me, but you could make a dowel and glue the dowel in and then re-drill it. But I just wouldn't do it. It's just not worth it. You run into problems over there. Maybe there'll be a gap at the end of the dowel where you're going to have gunk, tar gathering, and you can't get to it because it's glued in. I just, for the amount of that it's off, it's a fraction. It's literally a fraction. I don't know if you can see that. It's just not worth messing around. There's nothing wrong with a pipe per se. It'll smoke just fine. The drill is, you can see that it's really, there's hardly anything in it. No. Well, you could re-drill the draft hole and then make a new tenon to fit, but I wouldn't do that. I would not do that. It's just not worth it. It's not, you know, it doesn't warrant it. It's not off that far that it means that I have to rethink the whole pipe. It's a little bit off, it's fine. You know, I've bought pipes which were worse. So, you know, it is off, but it's not catastrophic. I'm sure it'll smoke fine. As I say, I'm not even going to leave it on the website too long. If it doesn't sell, I'll just keep it. Maybe I'll give it away, possibly. Maybe I'll give it as a gift or something like that. I don't know. But I'll probably just keep it. Hey, Phil. Yeah. Happy holidays to you too. I managed to stick my hand into the shaping wheel when it was with the lowest grit, so it really ripped into my fingers and my nails. I don't know if you can see that, but it's a little bit stingy, taking off the top layer of skin. I think last time I showed you some vintage tobaccos. I wanted to show you some more. When I was doing my office clearance, I came across various tobaccos, as you do. One of them is, I mentioned it I think last week, this is a tobacco that I got when I bought a pipe, and it was bought from Germany I think, and on eBay. And in the box with the pipe came this tin of tobacco, a pipe stand, a little sort of one of those little plastic foldy things, and some pipe filters. This is Caledonian Grand Reserve Melange number 466. I don't know if you're familiar with that. I'm certainly not. You can see how bulgy that is on the top. Some kind of what is this? This blend has been created from one of our oldest recipes. It's a classic mixture with a superb balance of Latakia, Virginia and Oriental tobaccos. So I really think this is going to be a fantastic smoke because of its age. It's made by the same company that makes, I think they currently make a Scudo if I'm not mistaken. AC Peterson. Before it explodes. What's EOD? Sorry, forgive my ignorance. Really not, Bob. How you doing? Merry Christmas to you too. That is popping out. Explosive ordnance disposal. Okay, fine. Over here it's called bomb disposal. Kind of explosive ordnance disposal is kind of a double thing, isn't it? It's either explosive disposal or ordnance disposal. Kind of a double thing there. I'd love to know what the age is. You've got the tax sticker on there. I don't know how to find these things out. But I would hazard a guess and say it was somewhere between 10 and 20 years. Alright, so that's one of them I wanted to show you. This is the one that I wanted to show you last week, I think it was. We talked about a tobacco that had come with one of my pipes. Yeah. Okay, Phil. So now this box was a box I bought from Larison Pipes. Larison Pipes went out of stopped making pipes a couple of years ago. So he sold off all his machinery, some of which I bought, and then he's selling off a bunch of tobacco as well. And I think he's still slowly clearing out whatever he has in every nook and cranny of his house. Anyway, so I bought these, and I think some of them are quite rare now. I think they're all either McClellan. I think they're McClellan's, maybe one Butera. So this is McClellan the Wilderness. I think this was done for Fred Hanna. Yeah, this is Oriental. It's got Syrian Latakia, Orientals, and Red Virginia. I'm not sure if I've tried this or not. I think I sent one tin of this to Tim, Hermit Piper, because I'd heard him say that he was looking for a tin of this a while back. I've had this a while, as I say. When I was clearing out my junk, when I was doing this room, I came across the box. So there's another tin of that. So what's the date on it? 2013, February 2013. So that's 10 years. And we have also Boston 1776, which I think is a very rich Virginia. Virginia flake pipe tobacco, yeah. I might have tried this before. I think I sent a tin of this to Mike, Briar Blues, a while back. So this is from 2010. So that's 13 years. So there's 1, 2, 3 of those. And there's another Wilderness. So there's 3 Wilderness and 3 1776. This was a while ago, so I mean, I'm not really buying this kind of stuff nowadays. And this one is Royal Vintage Golden Cake, Butera. And this is from 1995. Wow, this is old. It's nearly 20 years. Golden Virginia longleaf ripened to perfection, mellowed for years, then flue-cured until fully seasoned, layered and aged in cakes. Natural sugars and oils are released. This should be awesome. It's 17 years old, or thereabouts. Oh, he's actually written on it 697. That's presumably when he got it, but you can see the date on the tin is 1995. So it's, what is it, 18 years. Kind of tempted to crack this, you know, just to smell it. Am I right in saying this is made by Germain's? Was Butera made by Germain's? It says made in USA, actually. Hey Andy. Well, I'm in the middle of a cigar now. To crack it open now would be a little bit of a waste. And there's always the value of it as well. Although I didn't necessarily buy it to sell, but I tend to sometimes decide when needs must, especially something as old as that, nearly 20 years old. You know, sometimes it makes sense. I should beans it open. Look at it! have a quick look and see if the potential is for it to be a great smoke. Then maybe I'll crack it. I'm going to look quickly on smoking on tobacco reviews. Terra Golden Cake. It's made by McClelland, Straight Virginia. No longer in production. You don't say. Who's this review? Emeritus. Don't know who that is. Ah, Pipe Stud. Let's see what he says. Gives it a 4-star. This was a review he did in 2002. That's 7 years after this. This blend came to me in a 4-year-old unopened tin, so that kind of thing. Being a straight Virginia flake, I thought the aging would make this blend extra special, and indeed it was. It was naturally sweet with a hint of sweet hay as I puffed, which deepened as I worked my way down the bowl. A slow burning leaf that never bit, very enjoyable, and the tin didn't last long. Jim X gives it a 3. That's something. The Virginia offers mild honey and tart and tangy citrus with some other fruit and a touch of earth. For the most part, the vinegar dissipates fairly quickly. There's some spice and a bit of grass and hay along with a sour acidic note at times, needing a little rubbing out and a little dry time. The nick hit is just below the potency of the strength threshold, which is in the center of mild to medium. The taste barely hits the medium mark. Ooh. Burns a tad warm, very clean and slow with a sweetly spicy consistent flavor, and could nip at the tongue if puffed at a fast rate, so sipping the smoke is recommended. Needs some relights, has a nice aftertaste, and the room note is pleasant. Not quite an all-day smoke. Well, nearly every single one of the reviews gives it a 4-star, and he's one of the only ones to give it a 3. Gentleman Zombie, he's a regular reviewer, he gives it a 4. Steel Cowboy's a regular reviewer, he gives it a 3. Stevie B, a regular guy, gave it a 4. From what I can read very quickly, it looks like it's quite subtle smoke, but a very, very good smoke nonetheless. It'd be interesting to see what would happen to it after 20 years. That's very nice of you, Phil. I've got a couple of tins of the Syrian Brevier. I haven't opened them yet. Yeah, I can jar it afterwards, but it'll lose its value selling wise if I did decide to sell it. He never understood flavor versus taste. There is no difference. Pelican and Kingfisher are the two more common. I do have a tin of Kingfisher somewhere. Hey Paul, how you doing? Long time no see. Drinking coffee. I have never smoked Bristol Murray. If you want to try something similar, I would recommend, and there's a video on my channel of it, the London Flake by LJ Peretti. For me, that really comes quite close, so try that. Northwoods. Some people say that Northwoods is a bit like Frogmorton Cellar. I don't see it myself, but it's a good tobacco. I mean, I love Northwoods, you know that. It's my #1 Latakia blend. Yeah, it's LJ Peretti. Well, I'll tell you this, Daniel, I wouldn't worry about it. If you've got Northwoods and you've got Quiet Nights, you're good, you're done. And unless you just want to taste McClelland's just to say that you've tasted it, yeah, fine, chase it down. All you got to do is stay on Pipe Stud's website and you'll find it. If you want it, you could find it. You might have to pay for it though. But that's what I was talking about. LJ Peretti's London Flake is a Virginia, not a Latakia blend. The Frogmortons are Latakia blends, Latakia, Oriental, Virginia, Perique sometimes. So it's just the London Flake is as I say, when you're talking about McLaren Virginias, the spicy, clovey, Christmassy kind of spice that they used to get out of their Virginias. So the London Flake, I think, comes quite close. It's not a match, but it's quite close. And I'm pretty sure that Sutcliffe will have some match blends as well. I haven't tried any, but I'm sure they must have some. What does 2023 have in store for me? It's a very good question. I don't know. I really think that the world economy is going to have a huge effect on all pipe makers. I really do think so. So I think we may well see prices coming down on some of the really expensive pipes. Maybe not sort of my price range. Maybe they'll come down a bit, but I think that the big guys, from $500 up, they might have to. Well, on the other hand, the type of people that are buying their pipes have money, and maybe it won't affect them. I don't know. It'll just be interesting to see what happens, because I think that the world economy is going to be in recession for a good long time. Merry Christmas, Aldwak. How are you doing? Well, thankfully now my cost in respect of heating my workshop is significantly reduced because I'm not outside anymore. I actually don't really have the heating on. Do I see myself opening a pipe retail shop? No. I'd love to, but I don't see it. The overhead is just too crazy, and the market here is just almost non-existent. I mean, online, yes, but in order to make enough profit in a retail situation, to have a shop, a store, pay the overhead of the store, pay for the staff, pay for the cost of running it, the energy, the taxes that you have to pay, the council tax, and the rent, it's just not doable. I don't think it's doable. So no, I really don't see that happening. The only thing I could see happening, I'm probably a bit too old for it. I don't know. Maybe I'm not. You're as old as you feel, I guess. But my kids keep telling me that I should open a restaurant because I really enjoy cooking. The only thing I could see maybe is to have some kind of hybrid. Maybe have kind of a takeaway sort of situation, a cafe or a bar or something, and have a cigar lounge attached to it maybe, and then another side sort of area there for making and repairing pipes, that kind of thing. But for me, it's probably too late for that. But it would be a really cool thing to do. And when you try to mix too many businesses, you kind of don't do any of them properly. Making 4 pipes a day. Yeah, well, I could quite easily make 2 or 3 pipes a day. I don't push it. I prefer to take my time a little bit, and I don't know that it would translate to. I don't want to flood my website with pipes. I'd rather there be a few pipes on there which sell, rather than have 20 or 30 pipes and people just see pipes on there the whole time, and it just looks like they're not selling, So it's better, I think, to have, although I'd love to be able to make 2 or 3 pipes a day and sell them all, and hopefully that will happen, with time. It just, your reputation builds and builds and builds, and I'm really grateful that I've come to the stage where I'm at. As I say, I'm nearly at 700 pipes, and nearly all of those have sold. So that's pretty awesome to think that out of those 700 pipes I've probably sold, I've obviously given away some, I've kept some, you know, I've probably sold somewhere between 600 and 650 pipes. That's unbelievable. So I'm really happy with that and grateful to everybody that's kind of helped me along the way on that journey, whether it be people who buy the pipes or people who help me in, you know, my journey of learning how to make pipes, like Phil. So I'm very happy. If I push it, you know, to make 2 or 3 pipes a day, I don't know. What I might do possibly is try to up it, but not market them. So maybe make 2 pipes, or maybe make 3 pipes every 2 days, or something like that, or 2 pipes a day, and the second one set it aside, and maybe for a pipe show, or maybe possibly to sell to shops. I don't know. I have had offers from a shop in the US, but I declined it at the time. They just wanted too much of a knockdown on the price. They just wanted to give me 50%, and that was just too much for me. And my pipes were selling well enough, so it just didn't make any sense. I think if there's anybody that I would send pipes to, it would probably be, and I don't know if he'd still be up for it, but I'd probably send to Mike, because he's got a very fair split in how he does it, how he deals with pipe makers. Again, I'm not. It's not through not wanting to send them to him, but it's just simply because my pipes have been selling. So there's no need for me to give away 30% if they're selling. But when it gets to a point where you need to proliferate and you need to get to be known around the world, then you do have to start sending pipes out to various different venues. And you know, I mean, financially I do have to, but I'm not sure that it will translate necessarily into many more sales. I don't know. I think what I'd rather do is like I said, do 2 pipes a day, 1 for the website and 1 to send off, whether it be for a pipe show or for a website or for a seller, you know, for an agent, that kind of thing. So that I would have to, I'd have to look at. Well, yeah, I mean, Phil and I have been having preliminary talks about doing a collab. So maybe that will happen in 2023. That would be nice. I haven't really done a collab. I mean, I've done collabing as much as I've made pipes and had them sandblasted by other people. That's about it. I haven't really done more than that. But yeah, I'd love to do something with you, Phil. I don't know which part of the pipe you see me doing and see you doing, whether the stem or the stummel. But I'd be happy either way. Yeah, Eldrishes, those are really nice sets, I have to say. Very nice sets. I don't think I would do that now, since he's done it. It would be a little bit, it'd be a little bit unfair to do that. Although it's not, you know, there's no, he's got no rights over the idea, but it's just not something that I would do. I've been accused of sort of taking other people's ideas in the past erroneously, falsely accused of it. And I certainly wouldn't want to be copying it outright, the idea. I wouldn't do that, Daniel. For one pipe maker to critique another pipe maker's work is asking for trouble. You know, when I used to way before I had even thought about making pipes. When I just bought a new pipe, I would talk about the pipe, but I never did reviews of the pipes. And if I ever had a problem with a pipe and I wanted to talk about the problem, I would talk about it, but without saying where the pipe was from. Because you never know. First of all, it's not fair, because you could ruin somebody's reputation, and it's, you know, it can happen. Not everybody can make a perfect pipe every time. It's only if sometimes you need to call somebody out if they've sort of been dishonest, or they haven't treated you right, and you don't want other people to fall into the same trap. So that I can kind of understand, but even then, it's not a good idea. But to rate another person's pipe, it's, you know, that is wrong, because you're rating it based on your own ideas of what a pipe is. But his idea of what a pipe is might be something completely different, and to him, that's his body and soul gone into that pipe, and you're just, if it's a bad critique, I'm saying, you're just dissing his work and you're ripping his heart out. That's how I would see it, and I wouldn't do that. I wouldn't like it if somebody did it to me either. If you're always going to critique a pipe and sort of critique it positively, then your critiques aren't worth anything. If you're going to critique something, it's got to be honest, warts and all. So sometimes it's going to be good, sometimes it's going to be bad, and sometimes it's going to be a bit of both. If you're not going to do that, then just don't bother doing them at all, because then they mean nothing. Nobody can trust them because you're always saying nice things about them. So they have no value. A review only has value if it's honest. And for me to be honest about somebody else's work is pointless, because my benchmark of what is considered good or bad is different to what his is. And the only person that needs to be happy with the pipe is the person who's smoking the pipe. And you'd hope that the pipes that you send out, people will be happy with. And that's why, if I've got a pipe which has got an issue, I'll say it. I've had people, yeah, but I think that should be one-to-one, Philip. You know, if somebody asks me for a critique, I'll give it to them, but not on a YouTube channel. If I've had pipe makers send me pictures of pipes and ask me their opinion, then I'll give it, the same as I've done with you in the past. In the early days, I did that with you and a few other pipe makers, and I welcome the critique when it's done in a way which is constructive. As long as you're not ripping the guy to pieces and you're giving him a way to improve, then yeah, that's great. But I certainly wouldn't do it on a video. I've done it plenty of times off video, yeah, for sure. And I've offered it to new pipe makers as well. I mean, I don't consider myself an old pipe maker, but I can still share my experience that I've had so far. It's got some value. But what I've actually found with a lot of new pipe makers, again, I'm not thinking of anybody specifically, but I find that there's actually quite a lot of, I wouldn't like to say the word arrogance, but you know, there are some pipe makers who have literally been doing it for 2 minutes, and they're talking about, when they're doing a video of their pipes, and they're talking about their pipes in a way which kind of gives the impression that they've been at it for 20 years, and the pipe, you know, looks like it's been made by somebody who's been making pipes for 2 minutes, you know. And I find that interesting. Again, I would never call them out or anything like that, and I would hope that when I first started making pipes that I wasn't the same, but maybe I was, I don't know. I suppose you have to exude confidence in order to give people the confidence to buy your product, I guess, but you don't want to do it when it's misplaced. But I don't know. I mean, Phil and I have had chats about this in the past. I had one particular pipe maker who would send me his critique on my pipes without me asking for it, but he I think he meant well. Phil knows what I'm talking about. I'm not going to say names, of course, but his style of critique was so aggressive and negative that I just told him to stop. You know, I said, I'm not interested. You know, it was just too much negativity, and And maybe he meant well, I don't know. I kind of got the feeling at the end, ciao Claudio, amico mio, Merry Christmas to you too. I kind of got the feeling in the end that this guy wasn't happy with my progress, that I was moving ahead and getting somewhere, and possibly encroaching on his market. I don't know. Maybe it wasn't that. And I'd like to think in my heart of hearts that he meant well, but he was very aggressive and negative in his feedback. Whereas Phil, for instance, like you were saying before, positive, negative, positive. In other words, be positive, give a compliment when you see a good part of it, and then say, but these are areas for improvement, and this you've done very well. So you're leaving the guy, the parting comment is positive, the beginning comment is positive, and in between you sandwich in between the areas for improvement. But it's areas for improvement, not that's crap. And what I was getting from this guy was that's crap, and no advice on how to move forward and how to correct that, what he considered to be crap. And he was just giving me negative, and so it just became just a negative experience. And I said to him, thank you very much, but please don't message me anymore. And he hasn't. So I'll give you an example. I once put up a picture of, I do, when I finish a pipe, that I upload on Instagram and Facebook a series of pictures of that particular pipe, usually half a dozen pictures, maybe 8 or 10 pictures. And on one of the pipes that I did, on the rim, when you're sanding the rim, so it's in a circular motion, especially when it's still on the lathe, but afterwards as well, when you sand it and sand it. So as you go through the grits, I start at around 180 grit once I'm off the lathe, and I go from 180 to 220, 320, 400, 600 and 800. That's my process. So it could be that on one of the lower end grits I didn't spend enough time on it. So by the time I'd finished 800, the pipe looked done, but there was a minuscule scratch on the rim, which I'd obviously not sanded out enough on the lower grits. But I'd finished the pipe, polished it, buffed it, and done the pictures. And this guy was obviously pixel peeping and checking out the pipe, and he saw this little scratch. So he sent me a message. He said, how could you put up a pipe like that? He sent such a, it wasn't like, by the way, you've left a scratch there, you better take that picture down, for your own benefit, don't show yourself up. It wasn't that. It was such a negative comment. And that's just an example of it. How dare you show your crap work on there if you haven't actually bothered to finish it off. And rather than saying, actually you missed a bit, that is the easiest thing for him to say, is you missed a bit. And I've done that with other pipe makers as well. There was one particular pipe maker who I know very well and I like, and he also had a similar situation. It's a rookie mistake. I did that many times, earlier on. And this guy also was a new pipe maker, and he did the same thing. He put up pictures of a finished pipe, and it had a little patch of scratches. And I said, great looking pipe, just so that that those pictures are not showing you up at their best. You might want to resand that, restain it, and then re-upload it. And he was grateful for the feedback, pointing out something which is potentially showing him in a bad light. Anyway. Thanks, Jeff. Appreciate that. If I'd go higher than 800, would it bring out? It wouldn't bring out more grain. No, I don't think so. It will just give you a more glossy finish. I think the advantage of going higher, for me, I think that the return after 800 grit is not there. Just personally, that's my personal opinion. At one stage I tried 1,000 and 1,200, but I just really didn't see any serious advantage to that. But the advantage of the higher you go is that if you get a pipe, the vast majority of factory pipe, Peterson pipes, for instance, if you read their book, so it's not a secret, I'm not telling you anything negative, but if you read their book, they will tell you that their pipes, even the highest grade pipes, are all sanded to 240 grit. That's my second stage of grit. I'm going 3 more than that. and then they spray it with a lacquer. So that lacquer kind of covers many sort of any area which isn't necessarily as smooth as you might want it to be. It kind of fills that and smooths it, and that's done. And there's plenty of pipe makers, factories, who don't go beyond 400. But what that does is that if you have a pipe with 240 grit, you're wondering, if you have a pipe which is sanded to 240 grit, and then it's shellacked and buffed and it's beautiful and glossy, you get it, you smoke it a few times, your hand is oily, that shellac is going to come off, that carnauba wax rather, is going to come off, and you're going to end up with quite a dull, sort of smooth finish, but it won't be shiny, it won't be polished, it'll be quite dull, in terms of, it'll be, what's the word I'm looking for? Not glossy, the opposite of glossy. Anyway, matte, thank you, matte. So it will be quite matte once the carnauba wax has come off. It'll be quite a matte, which is fine, but it's just the higher you sand it, it's just going to feel glossy naturally because it's so smooth. I mean, Phil's saying here above 400 starts sealing the grain and doesn't allow top stain to adhere. I don't have that. I've had it maybe out of this almost 700 pipes, I've had it 2 or 3 times where the stain sort of comes off on your hand, but I'm not sure if that's to do with that or if it's to do with that. But maybe what I have done now, and I do with every single pipe, and that's thanks to Phil as well, is every single pipe, before I stain it, I will rub it with denatured alcohol, so that number one cleans off any dust which is hovering on the top of the pipe, and it cleans out the pores and everything that's, it cleans out the grain to make sure that there is no dust on there. I also blow it as well sometimes to make sure that there's no dust on it. But I actually do feel that there's a difference between 400 and 800. I actually do think there is. Factory pipes are cheaper because they're done in bulk, so it's a some of them might have pits, cracks I doubt. I mean, it could come, the odd pipe could fall through which has a crack, but generally speaking I don't think you'll get cracked pipes, but you will get pits which are filled, with some makers. It depends which companies. I mean, I once had an Irish seconds, which I assume is a Peterson seconds, which I decided to sand. It was a black pipe. I decided to sand it and see if I could get some nice grain. The thing was pockmarked. It was like a colander. None went right through, but the whole surface of the pipe had pits on it. Some people used to say that even Bo Nord used to have minor fills on his pipes. I don't know if that's true or not. My personal no, well, every company has their own standards. Some will say that a pipe with any kind of flaw, every pipe's going to have a flaw when you put it under the microscope, but it's really a matter of degree. Some companies are quite happy filling holes, and if you look back more so, 30-40 years ago, and pipes were full of fills. Lots of pipes had fills in them. Lots of Danish company pipes had fills in them. They had putty, which was kind of a reddish brown color, terracotta kind of color, and they would stay in the pipe similar, and some of them weren't even that similar, and it was unashamedly filled, but they priced it accordingly. You could buy a pipe for 20 quid, But I think that generally speaking, with artisan carvers, you're going to have, I mean, you'll have some with fills, but really very insignificant. Um, very occasionally, I will fill a small pit, as long as it won't take away from the overall. Certainly not if it's got any major depth to it. But if it can be rusticated, I'll rusticate it, fill it and rusticate it. Even smooth pipes sometimes will have a very tiny fill. I'll give you an example. I mean, I've had people tell me, why do I point out fills? I don't have a problem with it as such. See, you have a look there, you can see that little black spot there. So that has a tiny fill. So for me, I don't know if you can see it, you can't even see it. So what I mean by that is that if I can absorb a fill in the grain, in other words, when I stain the pipe and I can hide the fill, not because I'm trying to hide it dishonestly, but because I don't want it to detract from the overall look of the pipe. The quality of the pipe, I know it's not going to detract, otherwise I wouldn't be selling it. So it's obviously only a little surface pit. Some pipe makers are really happy leaving the pits there and doing nothing about them, and I would much rather, if I can, absorb it in the overall stain of the pipe, whether it be stain or whether it be rustication. That's what I would do generally. But if there's a pit going through the pipe, that doesn't come into question. Well, you can't always sand out a pit, because a pit is essentially where sometimes you've had a grain of sand or a grain of a little tiny hole or something like that, and the briar has grown around it. And sometimes you can sand it out, and oftentimes you'll see me when I'm making a pipe and a little mark will show up. I'll sand it and it'll disappear after a few strokes on the shaping wheel. But sometimes, if you've got a very particular shape pipe, and if you sand past that pit, you're going to ruin the shape of the pipe, then sometimes you don't want to do it. Sometimes you do it and you make a new shape, and that's how a lot of times new shapes came about. But sometimes you don't want to change the shape. So for instance, on this pipe, it's a particular shape. It's like a deep sort of rhodesian. And so for instance, there are some little spots here. I mean, those are tiny. That's not even going to show up. I don't consider that a flaw even. But you've got, see, little black dots here and there. If I start to sand those out, this is going to end up being thinner, and it'll change the shape of the pipe, and it's just not worth it for something which is as small as that. It's just, there's no need. I don't feel any need to do anything about them. Sometimes when the floor is really big, then it's a problem. So the other day I was making a pipe, I was doing it live, I was doing a shank, and there was a gash, a real sort of horizontal pit along the shank. Now I could have put a ring around it and nobody would have known any different, but I decided it was just wouldn't have been right. I didn't feel right about it, so I just trimmed it all the way back past it, and I made a different pipe. In fact, it was this pipe here. It was this pipe here, so it's got a much shorter shank, but I felt much happier about doing that. I knew I could still make a decent pipe out of it, and not have to sacrifice and compromise on standards, because for me the gash was just too big to, there was anyway bands going on and I could have just covered it, but I didn't want to do that. So it really depends on the judgment of the pipe maker and what their standards are and how far they want to go. You got some pipe makers who will do that. They'll put a silver band on a pipe that's got an issue on the shank, and that's also okay if that's what they do, and they're not hiding that fact. Then that's okay, because they've put a silver band on it. That band's gonna stop any movement in that shank, and you should be fine. It's just a matter of each person having their own standards. Well, it's good to see that you're doing well with the flutes. You know, everybody's going to take pride in what they do, and it's nice if you can sell it and make some money from it. You mentioned earlier on, Daniel, should a pipe be sold as a pipe with issues? So again, it really depends on that particular pipe maker's standards. So factory pipes, they're not going to point out to you the flaws. If they sell it, then it's within their standards. If you see videos online of Savinelli or any of these companies, you'll see pipe stummels with little dots on them, little circles, where one of the inspectors on their product line has made a note of that, and that will either get filled or it'll get rusticated. But they're not going to tell you about that. But some of them, where I've done them, like in today's pipe, I just felt I needed to point out those things, and I've adjusted the price because of that, even though the pipe looks fantastic. I haven't tried those rare pink. No, never heard of it, Jeff. Can you check before you carve the pipe for imperfections? You can check it only in as much as what you can see in front of you. So if you've got a block, so you can sand all the sides of the block, and that's all you can see. But there could be imperfections hiding inside the block you can't see. I know Phil has spoken about in the past about, you know, having some kind of X-ray machine, or some kind of ultrasound machine that would scan the blocks and see what the density is like inside. You know, if you did that, then I guess it would have a big effect on the briar trade. And the briar suppliers would lose out a lot. Cheers, Jeff. Hi, good to see you. What does it mean by a carver being able to read the briar? Well, when you get a piece of briar, the first thing you do is you sand off all the edges, and you look at what the grain looks like. So this one here, I don't know when I did this. I put an outline of an apple a long time ago. I took this off my shelf before, so presumably that has got some nice grain there. Well, it's actually got, I don't know if you can see it, but there's a flame grain, which actually, I mean, this could be a volcano as well, but there's some nice sort of flame grain going up the sides there. It's not exceptional, but it's there, and the other side you can see as well. So you know the direction of the grain, and you can, to some extent at least, predict what the pipe's going to look like in terms of the grain. You can't always be sure, because once you cut into the block, and you know the grain could change direction. But basic reading of briar is fairly straightforward, and you just get experience with it. People sort of see my pipes. A lot of my pipes have a lot of good grain, standout grain, and a lot of times people have said to me, "You've had great luck with your blocks." Yes, but it's not just about that. It's about making the best of the block that you have. That's the skill of the pipe maker. I'm not blowing my own trumpet here, because this is standard stuff which any good pipe maker will do. You want to maximize the grain that's in the block in front of you. Some people, will take a block and will just make the pipe they intend to make without looking at the grain. So factory pipes, to some extent, you'll get that. If a pipe's going to be rusticated, some in factories, they just don't have the time to assess every single block, and they're just going through a machine. But I would say even then there is a certain amount of discrimination of the blocks, because it's a shame. If you've got a straight grain block, why waste it on a rusticated pipe? So I would like to think that even in factories that there is some kind of separation going on. But I think if somebody was to say to me that I was lucky with the blocks, I think the luck is that the flaws not being, major flaws being inside the blocks. You get them all the time, but having a good run of good blocks that you can use, that's really where the luck is. And having a block with nice grain, presenting itself to you and making your life easy in terms of how to carve the block, that's luck as well. But almost every Ebershorn block that you're going to get is going to give you bird's eye on the side and a cross grain. And every plateau is not so simple. Plateau, because if you imagine the burl of briar being a ball, so you've got the center point and the grain radiating out. So depending on the angle of your block, of where it is from that burl, the grain could be going. You might have plateau on the top there, but it doesn't necessarily mean that the grain is going to be straight. It could be in that direction, which would give you like a flame grain. It could be in that direction, it could be that direction or that direction, or it could be straight. So when you pay the top dollars, then you get the straight grains. When you pay, the threes and the twos on the Mimos, the grade 2 and the grade 3s, you're going to get a variety of grain. And anybody who's watching my output will see that the majority of my pipes recently have been cross grain, because I just think that at the moment bird's eye is really talking to me. I'm really enjoying working with bird's eye, doing bird's eye pipes. So it just works. If I freehand a pipe with no actual shape, you guess the grain if it will be straight across. Well, you don't guess it, you see the grain. When you sand it at first, you wet the pipe, you see the grain like I showed you. So there'll always be grain. Occasionally you'll get a bald spot, but generally speaking there'll always be grain. But it's about which part of the grain you're going to use. Whether you're going to use, you get an Ebershorn block. This is an Ebershorn block, okay? So generally speaking, your Ebershorn block will be bird's eye on the sides and cross grain going this way. And you could turn it like that and get a straight grain pipe if you're lucky, or at least a flame grain or something, but usually they're not high enough. But you could make a pot or something like that, or an author, that kind of thing. But if you're doing a billiard or that kind of thing, Ebershorn blocks are great for that, for a cross grain pipe. If you talk to Mike at Briar Blues, Daniel, he'll tell you that I would say that it's kind of a hybrid, Castello pipes, because they kind of produce a lot of pipes, but it's produced by artisan carvers. They're not done on phrasing machines, so they're all done by hand, according to Mike. I don't know, but Mike knows. He's been there, I think, in the factory. So you wouldn't call it a classic factory because they don't use machines. copying machines. Although they use machines to do the initial certain parts of it, but I think the shaping is done. Each pipe is done individually, as far as I know. So you wouldn't. A lathe is not a phrasing machine. A phrasing machine is actually a machine which has it looks like a fan, a metal fan kind of thing, and it is kind of set to a shape, and it will. The actual phrasing thing is the blades are cut to a particular shape. So when you bring the stummel up to that spinning phrasing thing, it will cut a particular shape. So it will be a huge time saver. That's why I kind of call it a hybrid, because they do have some of it done by machine, and it's as the work that I do on the lathe, they have a machine to do, and the work that I do on the shaping wheel, they do by hand like I do. So for me, I kind of call it a hybrid, somewhere between artisan and factory, but in truth the shaping of it and the finishing of it is all done by hand. So it's probably closer to artisan. You can call it an artisanal workshop with multiple carvers in it. I suppose that would be a good way of describing it. Yeah, Chip, I understand that, but if you're freehanding a pipe, then you can get that precise. If you're not freehanding a pipe, if you've got an Ebershorn block like this, it's already cut. You don't have the room to shape the pipe so that the cross grain is exactly central on the pipe. So you have to kind of work with it, so it might be slightly off center. So you look at this pipe, it's very slightly over to the right. That's just the way it is. You don't have the room when you're working on a lathe and you're not doing it by hand. You don't have enough room unless you buy a massive block and you recut it and you reorientate it. But that's when you're working on a block which is almost the width of your pipe, you don't really have the room to do that. Sometimes you do, but oftentimes you don't. Can you make more than what? Sure you can. Depends on the size of the block and the size of your pipe. Mark, Welsh Piper and Pipe Monkey have got what they call their bro pipes. Mark ordered those pipes for me, 2 pipes made from 1 block. Sixton Everson would make sometimes 4 pipes from 1 block. You have a panel slight bent billiard commission. You have to rethink the panel layouts to give panel and bird's eye on either side parallel. Well, Yeah, ain't easy. I mean, you got to start with a big block, ideally, unless you got one which happens to be square. I mean, that would seem to be the best thing to do, is to look through your blocks. I mean, I don't need to tell you that, but if you've got one which is already central, then that would be the easiest way to do it. The D6 is pretty much done. I'm not sure that I'm going to light it up again. It wasn't bad. It wasn't great, but it wasn't bad. I need to relocate my cigars. They're too cold at the moment. I took this one out, as I said earlier on at the beginning of the video. This is a P2 Series Sevilla. I was going to do a video of this earlier on, but I got bogged down with work and family and stuff, so maybe tomorrow I'll do a video on that. I'm going to leave it out, let it dry out a bit. Hopefully it doesn't split. Alright folks, it's 20 to 2, and my wife's telling me that my kids are keeping her up, so I'm going to do some dad duties. I'm going to say my thank yous. I do want to do a giveaway. I have to just get it together, but hopefully I'll do that still during the holiday period. All right, thank you Phil, thank you Jeff, thank you Daniel, thank you Daniel on top form tonight, thank you very much. Chip, Edwin Pipes, Cigars, TPI Mark, Jeff Babireki, haven't seen you in a while, thanks for coming in again, appreciate it. Who else? Pipe Wondering, Jeremy Viz, Murray Eldred, Paul the Piper if you're still there, Hardvox, Oscar Flores, Igor the Terrible, and everybody else. Thank you very much for joining. Hillbilly, thank you very much. Merry Christmas to you all. You need a pipe sale. I could do that. I just always feel guilty about doing them, because I just feel like my channel is all about selling pipes. Well, it is nowadays, but I like it also to be, still about the hobby. So I try always to have a balance of, yes, I'll do almost every day a video showing a new pipe, but at the same time I like to fit in a cigar video or a pipe tobacco video or a general tips and that kind of thing, or a drive in the morning, that kind of thing. So I try to put out a balanced variety of output. Anyway, thanks very much everybody. Merry Christmas, Happy New Year, enjoy your holidays, and no doubt you will hear from me shortly. Thanks very much everybody. Thank you Todd. Catch you on the next one.